This video is about the Tesla Cybertruck and the ways in which it's designed poorly. Specifically, this is about how Tesla prioritized making this car look like it's out of Mad Max or Blade Runner, as opposed to prioritizing the aerodynamic efficiency, which would give it the best possible range and performance. A decision that's out of character for Tesla. I'm not here to say that the Cybertruck is ugly. I do actually think it looks pretty cool, though I will not buy one. My argument here is just that Tesla knowingly decided to make a vehicle that doesn't have as good performance as it could otherwise have. This is not my opinion. This is what Elon told Joe Rogan.
It's not very aerodynamic. You don't want sharp angles.
See, you want it rounded.
You want it rounded.
Yeah, so that aero will contribute to the lack of range.
Joe Rogan's got this one right, and Tesla confirms it on the advertising for their other cars that say it's their maximum aerodynamics that make the car built for distance. This is why I find the Cybertruck to be so bizarre, because given Tesla's expertise in designing super aerodynamic cars, they willingly made a choice not to make the Cybertruck as aerodynamic as possible. If you go to the Tesla website, on the Model S page, they brag about having the lowest drag coefficient in any car ever produced. And they made a similar claim in their pitch decks for the new Model 3. And Elon even bragged about the aerodynamics of the Tesla semi-truck.
So aerodynamic efficiency obviously matters a lot. You can see it's shaped like a bullet. It's really aerodynamic.
So what the fuck does a drag coefficient actually mean? So making something more aerodynamically efficient means it just slices through the air with less force dragging back on it. In the case of an electric car, that means it doesn't have to expend as much energy moving the car forward, especially at high speeds. That's where it really matters. Range is such a big issue with electric cars being a viable product for a lot of consumers. It's super important to make electric cars as aerodynamic as possible, because that squeezes as much range out of the battery pack as you can possibly get. The only other way to increase the range is to add more batteries, which are both heavy and also expensive, mainly because the metals inside batteries are scarce, and that directly limits how many electric cars they can make and sell. So with all of Tesla's other cars, they have gone through great lengths to make the car as efficient as possible. You can understand a lot by taking a look at the drag equation. The drag force equals 1/2 times the drag coefficient times the frontal area of the car times the air density times the square of your speed. But when you're designing a car, there's really only two things that matter. It's the drag coefficient times the frontal area.
The things that matter are the frontal area times the drag coefficient for aerodynamic drag.
The drag coefficient is a number that measures how aerodynamic the car is, less being more. A smaller drag coefficient minimizes the large frontal area and reduces the amount of drag force acting against it. And if you go to the Wikipedia page for drag coefficients, you'll see that the most aerodynamically efficient cars are overwhelmingly EVs. And the most aerodynamic car on that list is the General Motors EV1, which came out in 1996. That car had much worse performance than any of Tesla's cars. So in order to maximize that performance, it was really important to maximize its aerodynamic efficiency. The boxy design of the Cybertruck, as explained by Elon, is pretty bad for aerodynamic efficiency.
But the sharp angles are not helpful. This has a big frontal area. It's not very aerodynamic.
The drag coefficient on the Tesla Cybertruck is 0.34, according to Tesla. The Tesla Model 3 and Model Y have drag coefficients of about 0.23. The Model S has a drag coefficient of about 0.20. And so a 0.34 drag coefficient means that as it's headed into the wind, the Cybertruck is fighting about 60% more drag force relative to its frontal area than the Tesla Model S, or about 50% more drag force than the Tesla Model Y. Even the Rivian R1T, a boxy-looking pickup truck, has a slightly better drag coefficient than the Cybertruck. It's about 0.3. And because the Cybertruck has a larger frontal area than Tesla's other cars, the drag force it's fighting is even greater.
So it'll minimize the range somewhat.
It'll have a drag coefficient that's pretty good for a truck.
The argument he makes is that it's pretty aerodynamic for a truck, which is true, but most trucks weren't designed to be aerodynamic at all, and that's because most of them aren't electric. Aerodynamic efficiency matters much more for electric cars than their gasoline-powered counterparts. In a gasoline car, your efficiency generally is not better than about 30%, which means out of all the energy you're burning, only about 30% of that energy goes into actually moving the car. The rest of that energy gets wasted as heat. So when you touch the hood of a gasoline car, not the Cybertruck, it feels warm or sometimes hot, and that's because it's burning gasoline. Gasoline cars have all these extra parts like radiators and coolant systems to make sure that the car doesn't overheat, because it's a big problem. Because the whole process is so inherently inefficient, making it a little bit more efficient in terms of aerodynamics, while it will help out with the fuel economy somewhat, the difference might not be that noticeable. Electric cars, on the other hand, up to 90% of the energy that you put into the car goes into actually moving the car forward. That's wildly efficient. Because it's already so efficient, if you improve the aerodynamic efficiency of the car, it actually does make a pretty notable difference in the range, in how well the car performs. It's something that should be paid attention to. So it is true that a lot of gasoline cars, specifically pickup trucks, were not designed to try to maximize their aerodynamic efficiency. That's not really much of a concern. So comparing the aerodynamics to a boxy pickup truck, I don't think is that great of a comparison. So to give the Cybertruck comparable range as Tesla's other cars, they've given it a 123 kilowatt hour battery, which is over 50% more battery than the Tesla Model Y. That means to get the same range, it's gonna take longer to charge.
You know, it looks like less as far as miles per hour that you're adding to the battery, but that's including driving efficiency, which is, thanks to the aerodynamics of a refrigerator, not great.
But what's strange to me too is that Tesla cared about the aerodynamics in other ways. In the prototype of the vehicle, which this toy was modeled after, there are no side view mirrors. They didn't want side view mirrors to be on the Cybertruck. And that's because side view mirrors create drag. They increase the frontal area and they drag the car's efficiency down and the range down by a few percentage points. But otherwise, they prioritize the car to be bizarre looking, which I view as kind of gimmicky. They prioritize that over making the car as aerodynamic as possible.
Sharp angles are bad for aero.
I think the thing about it that I just find the most strange is, like, given the popularity of Tesla's other cars, the Tesla Model Y, I think it's like the best-selling car in the world. I feel like Tesla didn't really need to prioritize the like boxy Mad Max look that I agree looks sick. But if they had just taken this, start with this, and then try to make it as aerodynamic as possible, I feel like that pickup truck would have sold just as well as the Cybertruck. This toy Cybertruck, as featured in the video, is up for auction on eBay. The starting bid is 1 cent. I would sign it, but the problem with that is that I'm a nobody. So instead, I'm gonna write a quote from Mad Max to make it really badass.
My name is Max. My world is fire and blood.
This is the most badass Cybertruck I've ever seen. My world is fire and blood. That's fucking sick. Wow. So you could get this toy Cybertruck for incredibly cheap and be credited as the executive producer of my next video. The executive producer of this video, who won the item from my last video's auction on eBay, is a man in Colorado named Dennis Olson. And I asked Dennis Olson, as the executive producer of this video, what do you want the world to know about you? And Dennis said, quote, that I just got a Dino Juice burning Tundra, and it's fucking awesome, and I only feel a little bad about it. And then he said, actually, let me think on that. I want to be pro-environment. And he never got back to me with anything else to say. Thank you, Dennis Olson, for being the executive producer of this video, and congratulations on winning this for only $5. Much less than I paid for it. If you want to learn more about aerodynamics and cars, I recommend reading this article called Drag Queens. It's a car and driver article, and it explains how car companies can't really model the aerodynamics without first building a prototype, sticking the car in a wind tunnel, and measuring how aerodynamic it is after the fact. This article is hosted on Tesla's servers. They have a PDF that you can download, and I will link to it in this video description so you can go read it and learn more about the aerodynamics of different cars.